Hello and welcome back to Coach Caroline's channel. I can't wait for you to meet Dr. D. I have Dr. D here with me right now, and I met her on Clubhouse. So I'm going to read out her bio. Dr. Deborah Joyce Livingston, also known as Dee, is a visionary educator, best-selling author, and advocate for personal and community transformation. With a doctorate in education administration and leadership and over a decade of leadership experience in education, Dr. D has made a significant impact in both academic and community spheres. She is the president and CEO of Joyful Enterprise LLC, where she empowers baby boomers to share their stories, embrace their purpose, and create a lasting legacy through her best-selling book, Everlasting Joy, a guide for baby boomers to share their story and fulfill their purpose. Through her innovative LAUGH Laugh system, Dr. D helps individuals unlock new opportunities and amplify their dreams and find joy at every stage of life. Her work extends to hosting the podcast House of Joy and leading initiatives for veterans and underserved communities. Dr. D, welcome.
Wow, Carolyn, I'm just so impressed with your introduction. I couldn't have said it better. So nice
Yes.
to be here. I'm honored to be your guest and to spend some time with you.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here with us today. Your journey is so inspiring. I'm getting tingles just reading out your bio. Let's discuss what inspired you to write your best-selling book and how it aligns with your mission.
Okay. Well, first of all, the title of the book speaks to exactly what is my mission, and that is to create everlasting joy. And it's just focused on baby boomers because I am a baby boomer. And I think as I have lived, because it's really a testament to my life, that when we get to a certain age, sometimes we feel useless and we lose our North Star. So I worked with baby boomers and others who are looking to tell their story and to fulfill their purpose in life. And a lot of times that means transformational work to help them get a new start on what they know their purpose is. They just lost, how do I get there? And that's
Right.
what I specialize in.
Right. I'm curious, you say you use the word people feel useless at some stage in their life. What causes that?
Well, sometimes it's many different things. Usually it's a significant tragedy. Sometimes it can even be like a loss of a loved one who you depended on, who provided direction. Many young women get married to a man who seems to know the way. They're excited about it. The wedding happens, and for the first 5 years, they get the car, they get the house, they get the refrigerator, and then they don't know what else to do. That can happen, and they can
Right.
lose direction. Another situation is there might be a death, a tragic death. It can be of the partner, it can be of a child, and we know we're supposed to lose our parents before the parents lose the children. But in these crazy days and times, I find that the reverse is happening more and more often. And when the parents have invested and loved this child so much and want them to reach their maximum potential, when they don't no longer have that child to invest in, they lose their way.
Right.
Yes. And then another example is women who are valued or prized for their baby making abilities and for their maternal caring instincts and abilities.
Yeah.
once they hit menopause, they're
Mm.
not valued for their baby making abilities any longer. And
Right.
so, because no one talks about menopause,
Mm.
um, they're just sort of wondering, and they're thinking, oh, I'm the only one going through this. What do I do with myself? Uh,
Right.
I've done everything that I can do to make people feel comfortable. I've given myself away. And when the children leave home and go off to college or to start their own nest and have
Yeah.
go away for their time,
Yeah.
um, many women, not all women, but many women, because we've just not talked about it. We don't have they don't have a sisterhood around that issue. Um,
Right.
they lose their way.
Yeah.
And so this is just really a wonderful opportunity to rediscover yourself without all
Right.
the hormones and all of those things interfering with your good mind and your good heart and all of those
Yes.
things. So those are a couple of examples of how people lose their way and how they can rediscover joy in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. When people read your book, what is the core message that you want them to come away with? And what would be like the first action step that you would like them to take?
Okay, well, let's start with the first part of that question. What is the core message? The core message is, regardless of what happens, regardless of how bad you think it is, there is truly a silver lining in there. You just have to
Mm.
want to find it, and then you got
Mm.
to dig to find it. And it's probably going to be the start of the best time in your life. Why? Because it's new territory. And
Yeah.
what's in new territory? All kinds of adventure. And so if
Yeah.
curious mind and you have lots of questions, this can be truly the best part of your life, even after a great tragedy.
Yeah.
Um, an example of that is the Winan family. You may or may not know them, but they're an African American gospel family, and they have about 6 or 7 children. All of them eventually got into the music business. They started off with a boy group, and then it was a CC and BB and CC Winan. And the father would go into their bedrooms at night, and he would be singing like music was just a part of him. That was him. And he would go in at night, and he'd be singing to the kids, and they might wake up and say, "Oh, my dad must be crazy. He's singing and praising, praising God." And so, upon the passing of his son, the first thing he did is say, rather than crying and being very, very sad, which he was, I'm sure,
Yeah.
said, "Thank you, God, for sharing us with him, sharing him with us for the time that we had together."
Mm.
And that just totally impacted everybody in the family. And
Yeah.
I even brought them closer to the true belief in their faith and their religion and all of those things. But the father really had to dig deep to find that
Mm.
joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what we have to do is we have to. I think we were put on this planet for a purpose, and I think it's mostly about learning lessons.
Mm.
And within those lessons, we have this is really sort of heaven if we want it to be. But we have to create our own joy sometimes, and there's techniques to do that. And so the second part of your question was, what is the first step to doing
Mm.
that?
Yeah.
Um, I think one of the very first things that I I can only speak for myself, but I recommend within the book is journaling. Start a gratitude journal. Every morning you wake up, the fact that you're awake, you're ahead of at least 10,000 other people that didn't wake up this morning.
Yeah.
That's something to be joyful about.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
that's where I would begin. Yes.
Mm.
And if you don't like writing, you don't like journaling, take a few minutes and just think about What are you grateful for? What is in your life that you've been thinking about and all of a sudden it's here? What is the
Yeah.
coincidence, quote unquote, coincidence that
Mm.
has happened that you wanted to happen, but you didn't know it was going to happen? But because you've
Right.
been thinking about it and meditating on it, the universe is going to conspire in your favor. And it
Mm.
happens.
Mm.
So I think we have to be consciously and continuously looking and being aware of trying to find what's good that life has given us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. It sounds like you're drawing from your own personal story. Is there a specific moment from your personal story that inspired this book?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that question. That's a good question. Well, I would say there are many incidences that caused me to write this book because I've lived quite a long life. um, I I have I was at a Life Surge conference this past weekend, and some kind of way, I was talking with a very young man who looked, very handsome, very clean cut, and he happened to have on a bracelet of tiger beads. Men don't typically wear bracelets, but this was a very attractive bracelet. And I
Yeah.
asked him about his bracelet, and then he says, um, "What brought you here?" And we had that little chit chat. And then I said, "Well, how old are you?" Because then he started sounding older than he looked,
Yeah.
and tells me that he's like 45. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And I asked him, I said, "Well, how old do you think I am?" And he says, "Oh, I'm not going to fall into that trap. I'm not going to." I said, "You cannot offend me. Honest,
Yeah.
you cannot offend me. Tell me, give me your best guess." And so he says, maybe 57. I said, "No, no, you're a little bit off. You're about 20 years off. Let's try 77."
Wow.
And
Yeah.
his mouth dropped open. And
Yeah.
he said, "You can't be. I didn't
Yeah.
even think you were as old as my parents."
Yeah.
And I think things like that let me know that I must be doing something right. But
Right.
what made me write this book? Um, I think all my life I felt I didn't have real good self-esteem when I was a kid, and
Mm.
I got all kind of messages that confirmed that I wasn't good enough.
Mm.
Um, and as I grew older, I carried that with me. And in the first, I'm going to say 30 years of my life, uh, I liked to write, but I didn't think I could be an author.
Right.
Why? Because I didn't see any little black girl or black women authors in
Mm.
my school and where I was being raised.
Mm.
So then the next 30 years, I started to see some black female writers. And I said,
Mm.
still, I want to write a book.
Mm.
Well, it took me 30 years to figure out that I really had a book inside and a lot to share.
Yeah.
Um, I had published journal articles, I did a dissertation, I did a thesis, and interesting enough, I think one of the breakthroughs that I had is my master's thesis was on the effect of self-esteem on academic achievement. And I was actually published in the Cap'n, which is
Yeah.
a, academic journal out of Harvard University. And I thought,
Yeah.
little old me did that. So little incidences like that
Yeah.
are things that help me get to where I am now.
Yeah.
Um, and at this, we want to be a part of the crowd. Peer pressure can be very, very strong. The family used to have the greatest influence on children. And I think the surveys that are coming out now are saying that the family is about down to number. It switches between years between position 3 and position 4. That's a major concern that I have.
Yeah.
So, and an example is that I wasn't a crowd pleaser. I wasn't a crowd follower. When an example of that would be when I was in like third or fourth grade, my parents wanted us all of their children to play musical instruments. My
Yeah.
brother chose the drum, and all the girls chose clarinets or flutes.
Yeah.
I don't want any part of that. I chose the trumpet because that was different. And when I got to the high school, they had enough trumpet players, and the band teacher says, "Well, who wants to play French horn?" Of course, Deborah, because I needed different. I wanted the attention. I wanted to be special, and
Yeah.
so those are things that you do. And joy comes from letting yourself and your uniqueness and getting away from the crowd, because the crowd is not typically going to be feeding your joy. They're going to
Mm.
be telling you, if you're not like us, you're weird. You know?
Yeah.
So just an accumulation of things like that. And I
Yeah.
know as a baby boomer, we all have these stories that make us uniquely special. And
Yeah.
there's somebody out there who needs their story, needs your story,
Yeah.
because they may be facing the same challenge, but they haven't figured it out like you have, because maybe they haven't experienced it yet. You may
Yeah.
just be a step ahead of them.
Yeah.
You can help somebody. They're
Yeah.
out there looking for your story. They need it. Yeah.
So true. Yeah. Your story is the solution to somebody else's problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I just
Yeah.
want I want our generation to know that. Um, I encourage family leaders when I feel like I've discovered who may be a leader in a family. I start to tell them, do you have a family reunion? Do you
Mm.
have a genealogy? Do you have any of your family stories collected? And most people don't. And if
Mm.
somebody doesn't write it, that legacy is going to be lost. And that's
Mm.
really sad. That's really sad. I would not wish that on anyone. So
Yeah.
I encourage wherever I can. And I've had the greatest joy that I get is when I see people actually acting on those things and making them happen for their families. That is amazing.
Yeah.
There are no words to describe that.
Wow. Wow. It's so clear where you find your joy.
Well, it's basically everywhere. So there's no one source, and it never gets old. Yeah.
Amazing. Can you share with us the process that you went through to make your book become a bestseller?
Well, I have to give credit to a mutual mentor by the name of Dr. Fred Jones. And
Yes.
I discovered him on the internet, and I had watched, I have to tell one more story before I finish that.
Okay.
I have a sister who passed away with COVID.
Okay.
And my sister was an avid reader. She probably read a book a day. And
Mm.
her greatest dream was to write a book.
Mm.
She passed with COVID in the early months of the epidemic and never got her book written. And that made me so sad. And it was a wake up call. Deborah, you say the same thing your sister has been saying. You want to
Mm.
write a book. I
Mm.
know that I have fewer days ahead of me than I have behind me at my age. And I'm saying that was a lesson. I can't do that. I'm not going to do that to myself. And so there are many, many people on the internet that promise you that they're going to help you write your book. They're going to help you self-publish. They're going to give you this, that, and the other. I experimented a bit, as so many people do. You know, when we chase shiny objects and the promises sound so good. And I think what I saw in the best-selling author Write Your Worth program is that, number one, the mentor showed up and was consistent in his appearance. Number two, he just had a knack of asking good questions. He cared more about what your dream and goal was than whatever the tuition was. And third, he provided a curriculum that actually earned position, made it possible to earn a best-selling author title. And so I am just totally enamored with Dr. Jones. I am not speaking hyperbole. I am speaking truth. And anyone who is interested in self-publishing, I would highly recommend Dr. Jones.
Yeah. So can you share some key strategies that you use to become a best-selling author?
Okay, first of all, is to set a timeline, okay? Because I think what people think is it's going to take a long, long time. Like I shared with you, I've been working on my book for 60 years. I thought everybody took 60 years to write a book. And of course they don't. So the biggest thing was to choose a deadline. And that's what we do at work when we go to work for someone else to make their dreams come true.
Yes.
And so then once you choose that timeline, then everything gets set into motion. You get fired up. You get your outline done. You get your acknowledgments done. You get your chapter outlines and everything together. And when it comes to that day, you've set up media information with your friends and family so that they are there to support you. We happen to work with KDP on Amazon. And on that particular day, everyone comes together and they pre-launch your book. So you pre-launch with a purpose, and that pre-launch is so important because that literally gives you your copyright date. So if anybody wants to steal your information or become litigious, the fact that you've done a pre-launch with a purpose establishes that this idea, this book was yours on this date. And so I think KDP basically looks at that as what is the demand in the market for your topic and your expertise. And so you have enough interest in your book. There are different ways that you can become, and they do have to purchase. They do have to purchase. It lets KDP and Amazon know this book is going to be in demand. Get ready. You're going to have to print a lot of them. And so by the end of the day, you know whether or not you qualified or ranked at the level of best-selling author, which was an absolutely amazing experience for me. But you need coaching to go through it. I think a person trying to do it by themselves, I don't think they're going to get the results that you do when with the curriculum that we went through or going through. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Have you created a program based on your book and on your experience of being a bestseller?
Glad you asked. This Saturday, I am doing a mastermind with regard to how baby boomers can turn their stories into a best-selling book. And so it'll be just a glimpse of what's in store and how to go through the curriculum and the process. How do you find your stories? Everybody has one story, and I believe everybody has at least one book inside of them. So giving confidence, asking how do you do that? The questions that you've asked me so far have been very revealing in that that's sort of this process, questions that you have to go through to get to where you want to go. And if your dream is big enough and I think I heard someone say this, if you don't write your book, somebody will die. What does that mean? It means somebody needs your story. And people do get to the point of wanting to commit suicide because they can't find an answer to a problem. They don't know how to solve the problem. Nobody's stepping up to say, I've had the same problem and this is what I did. Maybe you can learn from that. Or creating a relationship that makes them know that everything's going to be okay. So the importance of just doing it is what will be conveyed. And I will have a guest speaker, so I'm excited about that. I'm really excited.
Awesome. Ooh. So if anybody wants to join Dr. D's mastermind, take a look at her information in the caption to this video. You can get in contact with her. So Dr. D, Dr. D, so how has becoming a best-selling author affected your business? Like Joyful Enterprise, how has it affected that?
Well, I'm going to give you two answers. I'm going to offer another thing to yourself and your audience, and let them know that I have a community online where they can go and join daily discussions and activities. And that website is going to be joyfulenterprise.net. Be sure you do the net.
Yes.
You can join the community and join the discussion. And that is where I have a bouquet of offerings that you can. Many of them are free, and several of them have a pay scale, but all are very reasonable. And so how has my business changed since I became a best-selling author? Well, it gives me credibility, it gives me authority, and it gives me the trust of the people who come. So many scams and flim-flam folks are online. You don't know who to trust. And people will go and take one class and they'll declare themselves an expert. Well, and then they're happy to take your money. And if you don't discern and see that the person really is the real thing, then you can throw away a lot of money. And so my business is like taking off, like, you know, how the rocket starts slowly. I wasn't doing badly before the book, but the book has made a big difference. I'm getting invitations for public speaking, for keynote speaking. I had done a little bit of that, but that's like doubled and tripled since the bestseller award. Yes.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. So what advice do you have for other aspiring authors out there, or people who have businesses and want to boost their brand, or what advice do you have for them?
I'm going to say is if this is your dream, just do it like Nike. Just do it.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
don't have to take big steps. You just take baby steps, baby steps. And
Yeah.
it's like keeping the journal. There's I want to say a classic journal. It's called One Line a Day. And you
Mm.
just write one line a day. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to
Mm.
be long. Just write something every day, because once you start writing, it will trigger things. It will pull things forward from your memory, from your subconscious. And you want to dig for your biggest pain,
Mm.
because that it's in that way it becomes very therapeutic, because
Mm.
what your path is you're going to tell people how you solve that problem, and
Yeah.
eventually discovering joy, and that's the celebration. So
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. So you did mention a .net on how to find you. Can you tell us more about where to find you on social media and your website? Yeah.
Well, my main Facebook page is my name turned backwards, which is last name first. You know, that's old school. Livingston Deborah. You'll find me on Facebook. And on Instagram, you'll find me at D Living to 120.
Okay.
Because that's how long I plan to live. But I want to
Yes.
live it healthily and joyfully.
Yes. And we
Yeah.
need you to live that long.
Thank you. Okay.
Dee, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your passion, and your uplifting message with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you talk with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Caroline. I hope to see you again soon. God bless.